Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. It is the month of March, and we are kicking off things with a streamer that I am excited to get to talk to because we have a ton of stuff to talk about today. I am joined today by JubileeOBI, and I am so excited to have you here today. How are you doing today, Jubilee?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Tails. It's fun to be on here. I'm really nervous, but it's exciting. I can't wait to get started.
I am so excited because of what you do on your Twitch channel, which we're going to talk about near the endish of the episode. So we're going to get to it, but I love what you do. I'm very interested to learn about what you do, but we're going to tackle some fandom stuff first,
Hmm.
and then we're going to dive into like everything.
Okay.
And
Sounds like a
I
plan.
say everything, but we don't have time for everything because we only have about an hour, give or take. So.
Yeah, as old as I am, we'd be at it forever.
Oh my goodness, yes. Apparently, like I have a repository of random fandom stuff, like all over the place, and it just be hours upon hours of just talking about random things.
Yes.
Now, we were talking before we got started because you have your hands in a lot of different things, and one of the fandoms that you're into is Star Wars. However, I preface it, or I guess I don't preface it, but I say that that you specifically only like a certain section of Star Wars.
Yes. Only a certain section.
Now, which section of Star Wars is your thing?
I grew up on OG Star Wars, the first through third, which is actually now the fifth, fourth through sixth section of Star Wars, pre-editorial mumbo jumbo that happened in the early 2000s. I I only like the 1970s versions that came out on VHS originally. They are, for the time frame that they were so much beyond anything in the 1970s. And with that being said, I only like the first and the third, which is now the fourth and the sixth episode. The second or the fifth one was always so I was telling you, it's so depressing, and I'm afraid of heights. So of course him hanging off of that satellite in the middle of the sky, it just sets my anxiety all kinds of crazy. So yeah, those are the ones that I like. The OG Star Wars.
Luckily, I am versed in OG Star Wars. It's quite shocking because a lot of the people that I have on the podcast are at least usually, give or take, 10 years younger than I am, sometimes 20 years younger than I am. So some of them have never seen the original Star Wars. Like in the original, the way it was meant essentially to be seen. I use air quote. No one can see me, but I use air quotes around like meant because
Hmm.
certain people disagree with how they envision Star Wars, including a certain bearded director who thought that improving upon them in the mid to late 90s was something that needed to be done. But it was. But I grew up with the old classic toys. I remember playing with them in my neighbor because I didn't have them, but my neighbor friend had like a lot of the toys, and I remember having like the original box set of the videotapes, the little black box set with like the flaps on either side, and
Yep.
oh, those were the days. I don't even have a video VHS player anymore, and I still want to one day have those in my collection, even if I cannot watch them.
Yeah, just to put your hands back on them and feel the weird texture of those plastic things when, you took the VHS out, and it was never a smooth VHS. They always had those raised bumps on the side. They don't make
Hmm.
stuff like that anymore.
No, no, they don't. It's very much a we live in a digital world now of if you want it, you can either download it or maybe because we we as a family haven't bought a DVD in years. I think we bought the last DVD we bought maybe was Frozen,
Mhm.
and that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm. Now, I actually am a collector of weird videos, so I have DVDs. I have the sleeves that they go into. I know where everything is supposed to be. I have not gone so picky as to like alphabetize them or write what DVD goes in what sleeve, but I've got 6 of those big cases full of DVDs. And then I've got the box sets of the extended versions of The Lord of the Rings, the extended versions of The Hobbit, the extended versions of most Star Trek, the series, the episode 4 of Star Trek. I have the extended version of that one with the whales in it. Um,
Okay.
I don't have any of the stuff for Star Wars. I watch it every time it comes on. I watch it with friends. I know those ones inside and out. So I can play Star Wars in my mind at any given time. I don't need to have the DVDs for that one. But yeah, I've got the DVDs for pretty much everything else. I'm an avid DVD television watcher when it comes to DVDs, I guess. I'm like, to growing up, we didn't have television, so I don't know anything about any television series. You could ask me about most of them, um, but I get bored when the series continue on. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
they've dragged this out so far. I can't do series, but I love rewatching and rewatching and rewatching all of the videos. It never changes. They always end the same way, and I can probably quote most words out of most videos that I've watched, but I'll keep on watching them just because I like the endings. And yeah, series I haven't been able to get into.
Okay. Well, I do want to ask, because I'm now you got my curiosity peaked on this, so we're definitely gonna ask I'm gonna ask some questions later about this.
Okay.
But I know you talked about you're into the original Star Wars. Now, I don't want you to age yourself, but did you watch them in theaters or were you a videotape person?
I was a videotape person.
Okay, me too. Okay.
VHS. I was born in the 80s, the early 80s, but no, I didn't watch those in theaters. What I did watch, Homeward Bound: Incredible Journey. That was the very first one that I watched in movie theaters.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were right there with me for Star Wars on video. You grew up with them on videotape, and in fact, I remember I didn't even have the ones on like official videotape because back in when we lived, we moved around a lot.
Mhm.
My parents would get like videotape copies, like someone would copy the movie from one VHS to another, and then we'd have the label like at 0 is Star Wars, but then at like 2 hours and 12 minutes, so that way you could fast forward on the VCR, it would be, Empire Strikes Back, so that way I could just fast forward to the next movie.
Mhm. Yes, grew up with that as well. The old Panasonic VHSs where you put the tape over the little tab when you were trying to re-record over it, or you pulled the tab out whenever you were done recording it, and then if you forgot something, you just put the tape back over it and record it again. Yes.
Yep. I remember I lost many a, recorded thing due to not taking that tab out.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, what was it about Star Wars that got your attention, that got you interested in the that movie franchise?
Oh my goodness. Well, from as early as I can remember, I just loved the fantasy of it. The fact that you can take normal everyday things and create a world that was beyond normal and then put it on television for everybody to see. It was my first entry into any of that fantasy sci-fi genre. And just the fact that it was loud and big and colorful and had so many different characters that you couldn't imagine, but yet you saw on screen, and then the storyline behind it. I mean, anybody who watched those would just fall in love with the characters. And then when bad things happen to them, which always happened in part two, I mean, the the cave with the tentacles coming out of it, the arm getting chopped off, the at that they put the guy in, Leia getting captured and turned into like some slave person. I mean, like the whole everything bad happened in two. um, so I didn't really have that in my normal everyday life. Any type of fantasy, we were just, you wake up homeschooled. I was homeschooled, and I don't have anything bad against homeschooling. I learned because our family was also military to settle down into a specific. Did I say also military? Erase that because I don't know if your family was military. Our family was military.
Yeah, my family was military too.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So our family was also military, and we moved around all the time. And my parents were like, to get a good education, let's just have mom homeschool. So we were homeschooled for quite a bit of time, all the way up until my third grade year. I was homeschooled and then put in public school and then pulled out in fifth grade and then put back in seventh grade and then pulled out in eighth grade. And finally, by the time I was in 10th grade, I was like, I'm staying. So just to have something that was different than my normal everyday get up, get dressed, get ready for school, do school at home, you know, no play friends to say anything of because we moved around a lot and it was hard to make friends. Then starting it all over the next day to be immersed in a world that was beautiful and beyond normal from what we were living in. I think that's what got me started on Star Wars and the fantasy sci-fi worlds. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was another. I loved that. Well, books. If it wasn't movies, it was books. You can create a whole world in your mind through books that you're reading. But Star Wars, Star Trek, try to think of some of the other ones. The Wizard of Oz. I mean, just anything that was beautiful and bold and had characters that were beyond imagination was something that I was interested in.
Okay. Yeah, it is definitely something. I know for people listening, they might not understand the whole moving around from that military's perspective. I mean, every 2 to 3 years, you're
Mm-hmm.
packing up and moving somewhere else and unpacking and crossing your fingers that maybe you get a friend or two. Because I never got to do the homeschool. I always was like public school, and then 2 years later, it's like, okay, bye everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something where I know that one of the things I grew up with was a lot of books. Like I always had tons of books to read, and would get lost literally in books because whether it's moving or whatever, there's just a lot of time where it was just me, and my sister was not young. Like she was 3.5 years younger than I am, so it just depending on what's going on is like I'm just going to read.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was the place to go escape when things were going crazy at the house. Yep.
Now, when you close your eyes and I say the word Star Wars, like what's the first image that pops into your head?
Star Troopers. The Starship Troopers.
The stormtroopers?
The Stormtroopers. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
the,
No
the guys
problem. I
with
was
the
like,
white
okay.
helmets. How weird is that?
It's not weird. I mean, they're iconic. I mean, between you could have said any number of things, and it's like you wouldn't be wrong. I
Mhm,
mean, I know that the first thing I think of whenever I think of Star Wars is like the opening where you see like the or not the Death Star, the Star Destroyer, and it's
mhm.
like how big is this? Like it just keeps going, and then it's filling my whole TV. Like what is going on?
Yes. Yeah, it was massive. I mean, and to think that it was originally created from small little miniatures and this camera was just zoomed up. I mean, the brilliance of George Lucas's mind to find ways to make things bigger than they were just by panning in really close on something. That was I can't think of another movie prior to the epicness of Star Wars that did that. I mean, there were some movies that would go into like The Blob, like old sci-fi. Um,
Hmm.
but beyond that, it's very difficult to think of something that was showing how big things were based on just the camera angles.
Hmm.
So yeah. Yeah, George Lucas is brilliant.
Yeah, it's definitely something to like, especially if you watch any of those documentaries, especially the ones made back in that time period of how they did things and how they created things and all the and we say cutting edge now, like thinking back on it is like they were doing things that nobody had ever tried before or had ever done before, and then to have a movie that just resonated with people that even to today it has influenced generations of people and generations of writers and filmographers and actors, and is just incredible to think of.
Mhm. And all the fanfic that goes along with it. I worked in a library for 3 years in college, and we were constantly putting up Star Wars books on the shelves because not only was it something that was fanfic where you can go in and you can find people writing little stories based on their thoughts of Star Wars, but there were chapter books written that went off of the canon of Star Wars. And I don't even think we've barely glimpsed the surface of where those books went. I mean, there was one where Leia got married to somebody that wasn't Han Solo in the book. And I, in my mind, I was like, how in the world is that going to even be part of the movies later on? And then it ended up that it was all, well, I can't tell you how the book goes because, you know, if you ever decide to read those books, I don't want to ruin it, but it was, you've got books upon massive books. There was another one that I read just from working in the library there that the the Wookiees had their own planet that they lived on, and Chewbacca was married and had kids.
Yep, yep.
So, I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to Star Wars, because there was not even an ending to things when the movies ended. That was just the beginning of the thought process. Once the movies 4, 5, and 6 were over, then people were like, "Oh my goodness, there's this huge world. We could just keep on going." And then fanfic started from there, and books started from there. And I was in college, and my character was a Tatooine girl, and I wrote in this group. It sounds so weird now thinking back on it because we were in a Yahoo chat group, which they don't even have Yahoo chat groups anymore anyway, I don't think. But I was in a Yahoo chat group and my name was that character. And I would come in and act that part in the Yahoo chat group. And there was other people who would act different parts from different worlds. And we would just have our own little, it was the Star Wars fan group chat.
Yep.
Yeah, those were the days. Thinking back on 'em, I'm like, wow.
Those were the days of the wild west of the internet back
Yeah,
then.
yeah, exactly. Oh.
And don't worry, I did it too. It's okay. Like in fact, one of my friends and I, we were writing in high school, like a high school slash Star Wars crossover,
Mhm.
where like our teachers were either like Imperials or there's a rebellion, and there like we have like 13 or 14 chapters of it somewhere. And she had said that she's got some of it printed out still, and I'm like, that's something that needs to be seen to be believed at this point.
Yes. Yeah, and just to know, I mean, it was partially an innocency of the day, but it was also just goes to show you how influential Star Wars was on our generation and moving forward, how much most people that I talk to that are my age either lived, grew up, breathed, ate Star Wars, or they were like completely opposite, don't know what Star not very many people are like, but the ones that lived, ate, breathed Star Wars went into these fanfic things where they were writing about them, pretending to be different people, and just yeah, just miss those days where you just sit down and you just chat about Star Wars. Maybe that's what this whole thing is about. Thank you for inviting me on here to sit down and chat about Star Wars.
You are welcome, because and I know I mentioned it before we got started recording, is that the Star Wars fandom, sadly, especially on Twitter, and elsewhere on the internet, is perhaps one of the most toxic fandoms out there that I've experienced. And there's been times where even just stumbling across like what people have to say just really like wounds me to the core, because it's like, what are you talking about? I don't understand how you can have so much hate in your heart and yet like Star Wars.
Right? Yeah, because you learned how to be nice to each other through Star Wars. I mean, there was the epic good and evil because you got Darth Vader, but even Darth Vader became good in the end when he realized his love for his son above all else. But then, of course, you know, the evil emperor, and he never was going to be good. So why not throw him down a long chute?
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, yeah, that's very hard to see people in chat groups and in on the online personas that that are so toxic. I mean, there's enough bad stuff that happens to you on an everyday basis. Why bring it online?
Exactly. Or why pollute the thing that you enjoy
Mhm.
with like hate and evil? It's like, what are you doing? Leave it
Exactly.
alone.
Yeah.
Now, before we switch off to what we're going to talk about next, I do want to ask, who in the Star Wars universe, who do you have? Who's your favorite? Who do you love?
Wicket. Wicket
Okay.
was one of the Ewoks, and I actually think my dog looks like Wicket. She's a cross between Wicket and Ernest Borgnine in her face. I'll
For
just
for
have
those who are listening and need a reference, please pause this episode and Google Ernest Borgnine, and I'll make sure to have a spelling of that in the show notes, so you can easily do that, and then you can resume and understand why both of us are laughing.
yeah. I love my dog. She is the cutest ugly thing I've ever seen. But you know, not that Ernest Borgnine. Oh my goodness, not that Ernest Borgnine is ugly, but just to have. Never mind. I'm gonna stop. Edit that whole part out. I'm just kidding. You don't have to.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness!
yeah.
Now, what is it about Wicket that makes Wicket the character for you in the franchise that is the OG Star Wars?
Oh my goodness. Wicket was um the cute one that when when he found it's a he when he found Leah and went um I'm trying to remember exactly what his words were. It's like OBG with thingana. I think that was what he whispered it. OBG with thingana. And then like ran off and was the one who alerted everybody to the stormtroopers. Why do I keep on trying to call them It's stormtroopers. Yes.
Yep,
Coming.
it's stormtroopers.
Yeah. Earlier I was like Starship Troopers, and that's totally not even the right show. The stormtroopers, when they came onto the land and trying to let them know that there was something there that wasn't normal, it was a different language and just so adorable. And I just want like reminded me of a good teddy bear, and you just want to pinch his cheeks. I don't know. I just really and the fact that it was actually people in costume that were acting that way and kind of like waddling away just because that was how they were trying to make their character. I, it's just so cute. I like cute things, I guess.
I totally understand. I totally get it. In fact, I think like I have a classic like 1980s Wicket stuffed animal
Mhm,
somewhere in the garage packed away. I think it's missing an eye, but it's definitely definitely an Ewok
mhm.
from back then. It's like okay, I apparently have an Ewok here at the house.
Yeah, just one of those good old things that you just have to have as, growing up in that time frame. I don't think I had one. I think my older brother had one, but I was always jealous. I wanted it. So yeah.
All right. So we and then you don't worry about any other of the Star Wars stuff. It's dead to you. Only the OG.
It's not really dead to me, but I watched the new number one with Anakin and the pod racers, and that was cool. The updated ones that George Lucas fixed, and like the bigger explosions and the new update to who Darth Vader was at the end of the third one, it just wasn't like, or yeah, it just wasn't my like me. I grew up on the old ones, and when you change something up on me, it's like you're dead to me. No, I'm just kidding.
You're dead to me. Get away from it.
Yeah, I didn't like the updates. I mean, I like the bigger explosions because the old ones were like, okay, if a whole entire world is exploding, it would be more than a little, but um, but to have everything changed, and then the different characters brought in, and then of course all of the, like you were saying, the toxicity that went along with it, where everybody was thinking that Jar Jar Binks was actually one of um, the uh, or Mace Windu, all these people that are introduced in the first, second, and third episode, which are now like pre first, second, and third, because to me, first, second, and third is actually fourth, fifth, and sixth. But first,
Mhm.
second, and third, I didn't even watch the third one because I was already tired of how crazy things were when it got to the second one. So I don't know what happens in the third one at all. And the newest Star Wars stuff that's come out, the only one that I have watched is the one where they brought back Luke, and he was like, his face was revealed at the very end, and the young girl, which I don't even know her name, she had been looking for him because she was supposed to be the new order of, like the Jedi.
Mhm.
So she'd been looking for him, and when he shows up and he takes his hood off and it's Luke, I was like, yes, my original people are back. And of course, having Han Solo come back in, Princess Leia, who's now Queen Leia or whatever she was. I mean, I liked that new one just because it had all of my OG characters back.
Mhm.
But other than that, I It's just not, I mean, I know the books. I can imagine the OG characters in the books and go off on those, but the new
Right.
Star Wars stuff, I haven't been able to keep up with, I guess, because like you say, they do come out every year, and so it's not, to me, the first 3 were the end all be all. I can watch those over and over and over, and that was what I was talking about at the beginning. Episodes of stuff, I can't keep up with it, first off, and second off, it just becomes over the top and redundant to me. So I'm like done with it when it gets to a certain point. I'm like, okay, I've seen this. It's no longer impressive and I can't keep watching it. So I haven't even watched anything other than the one that had the original characters. And then when Carrie Fisher died in real life, I'm like, how are they gonna, they can't bring her back. So there's no more Star Wars. You just, that's it. So yeah, OG, OG all the way. Rar.
OG for life.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, we're going to leave the Star Wars in the past, and now I'd like to talk about one of the things that you're into. It's one of the things that you do on your Twitch channel, but we're gonna start with, you're a book reader
I
like
am.
me.
Mhm.
We escape into books and live out all sorts of lives in these books.
Yes.
Now, for books, do you typically lean towards a certain genre, or are you an all, like, you'll take whatever book comes your way?
Well, that's a good question because I started out on Twitch just saying I was going to be a fantasy sci-fi genre reader, um, because that was my thing growing up. Fantasy, sci-fi, something different, that I couldn't think of myself, somebody else thought of, and so my imagination just goes wild on those books. But I do read different books. Grew up with my mom was an avid reader. She taught me the love of books. I picked up. I read everything growing up. When I was 3 years old, I was told that I read the back of a Kate box because I could sound out words, and so I started reading it at 3 years old because my mom was homeschooling my older brother, who's 3 years older than me, and I guess I just sat and absorbed the teaching of him learning his phonetics. And so I learned mine listening to that. And I could read at like 3 or 4 years old. And from there on, I just have anything I could pick up, I would read. So if it was sci fi fantasy is my thing, I just fall in love with all of the characters, all the worlds. But I could pick up any book and be entranced with it within seconds, with the exception of I draw the line at like horror, crazy thriller. But I got myself in trouble this last year because somebody asked me to get a hold of an author and see if I could read their books on my Twitch. And so I was like, okay, I'll get a hold of that author. What I do on Twitch is I cold read anything. I don't read it ahead of time. And so I'm learning what's going on at the same time as you're learning what's going on as the listener. And this set of books was called From the Furnace, or no, Escape from Furnace. And so I'm reading along. It's supposed to be a fantasy adventure thriller. That was what it said in the front cover of the first book. By the second book, because there's 5 books in that series, I started getting a little like, what kind of books are these? It was still saying at the beginning, young adult, fantasy, thriller. By the third book, it had added horror as a topic. And I was like, oh, great. So I'm starting to read about blood and gore and like gooey and like massacre and like all this stuff. And I was like, all right, yeah, I guess I'm also a horror reader, but I don't want to be. Um, so reading that one, and I joked about it with all of my listeners. I have the lights on in the house. The dog is curled up next to me. We're cuddling a teddy bear, and I'm just going to get through this, guys. My main genre is fantasy sci-fi, and yeah, that's what I guess gets me going whenever I'm reading through that. I get excited about the different characters. I get excited about the worlds that they're in, and that excitement I think is shown through my voice while I'm reading. But yeah, when I get to the horror, you can almost hear that in my voice. I'm like, oh, here comes another death or another creepy thing creeping out of the corner shadow place. I can't.
Now, what are some of your favorite books that you go to, whether it's ones that you've stuck like that have stuck with you, or ones that you like reread a lot? Like I know that I reread like the Percy Jackson series because it's a comfortable read, it's easy, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it just does something to where it's like, oh, I really love these. Let me, burn through them again.
Yeah.
The same thing with like Harry Potter, or not so much recently, but like I would try to read the Lord of the Rings trilogy every so often, just to like keep up with it and like remember it from like as opposed to the movies.
Mhm.
But what are some of yours that you go to?
My favorite, and actually the person that started me streaming because I asked his permission first and he actually gave it to me, which is surprising, was Brandon Sanderson. His Way of Kings, the Stormlight Chronicles series, found out when he did his release this last November that he's expecting that to be a 14 book epic fantasy.
Woo.
I wasn't expecting that. When I read the first one, I picked it up, loved it, just loved the characters. He actually ghost wrote for, um, what is his name? The guy who does the Wheel of Time, uh,
Right. I'm trying to think of his name because I was remembering it, but
Robert
um,
Jordan.
yes.
Robert Jordan. He ghost wrote books 12 and 13 for him after Robert Jordan. Well, he helped him with book 13, and then when Robert Jordan was getting sick, he asked Brandon to write book 12 for him based on his book 12 and 13 based on his outlines. And so Brandon co-wrote with him 12 and 13, and then of course when Robert Jordan passed away, he completely wrote 13 by himself with the help of uh, the script that Robert Jordan had put ahead for him. And then Brandon Sanderson went on from there. He's got a Mistborn series that I haven't gotten into. The first one that I picked up from Brandon Sanderson was his Way of Kings. And I picked it up because the front cover was just gorgeous. If you've ever seen it and, pause this and go and look at it, the front cover was amazing. And I was working at the library at the time, picked that up, and it was 2.5 inches thick. That one I have read and reread 4 times, even as big as it is, just for the fun of it. And then, of course, I read it on my stream. I read the second book, which was just as thick. The third one, his fourth one, came out November the 17th, and I bought that one. And this thing is, you can knock somebody out with it. Um, if I could pick it up and show it to you, it is about 3 inches thick and about it's about 12 inches tall and 7 inches wide. I mean, it is a huge book. From cover to cover, words. He just is an epic fantasy storyteller. Love Brandon Sanderson's writings. Another person that I'm really into is Garth Nix, and he wrote children's fantasies. The first one that I read of his was the Keys to the Kingdom series, where
Okay.
it was like Mr. Monday, Drowning Tuesday, Lady Wednesday, goes all the way through to Sunday. Lord Sunday, of course, is the last one. Very, very different, very out there. He also wrote I don't remember if it was called the Lost Tower or the Final Tower series. That one was really nice because it was almost like when you fall asleep in this world, you could go into the other world where the shadows of this world become actual things in the other world and you could capture them and bring them back with you, and they were your shadow friends, which now thinking about it, I'm like, that's kind of weird. But I love Garth Nix. I love Garth Nix. I will reread Tolkien over and over again, like you. The books, the movies didn't do the books justice, even though they were also epic. The Hobbit, even though it was three movies, they still didn't do the books justice. There were so many places where I'm like, that didn't happen like that. Why'd they do that? I will go to a book 10 times out of 10 before I will watch that movie because they tell you that the movie's so great, but if you found out that it was based on a book, go read the book first. The Hunger Games was based on books. Twilight was based on books. The Maze Runner was based on books. The Divergent was based on books. Like if you go down every new hip movies that have come out within the last 10 years, all of them were based on books, and the books have so much more to them because you immerse yourself in that person. You can see what they're thinking, you can feel what they're feeling, you can absorb the world around them based on as far as your imagination goes. And when you go and watch that movie, it has been truncated into almost like you have blinders on both sides of your eyes, and it's only
Mhm.
based on what that director thinks need to go into the movie, or those screenwriters. Like they will adapt it down to what's going to sell, what looks good. And then of course they always add a little bit of romance because why not? But most books it's good on they're good on their own without the romance that's involved. Like that wasn't even in some of the ones that have like the big sexual scenes or the romance or the crazy, like that sells, yes, based on movies, but in the books are so much better, and there's so much more to them, so much more depth. So if you're listening and you have not read any of the books that go based on the new movies that have come out recently, go back, start over, pick up the books, read them from cover to cover, and then come back and say what you think about the book versus the movie. Yeah.
I know, my daughter is the big reader out of all of my kids,
Mhm.
and she like I had gotten her into the Percy Jackson books, and she really loved like the first one. And in class they had her watch the movie, which the movie is certifiably like terrible. It is like tragically bad. um the author Rick Riordan had no involvement in the movie at all. So she came home one day after watching it at school and was like, the movie is nothing like the book. And I warned her. I was like, please don't watch it. But she had to. She's in class
Mhm.
now. We just finished like the Hunger Games series with them, and both my wife and I were like, you really need to read the books because the books have so much more, so in depth and so good.
Mhm.
You're only seeing like a fraction of what's going on in the books, like in the movies. So I love that she's got that eye for, hey, this didn't happen. This didn't happen. What's going on here?
Exactly. Yeah, one of the ones that I was the most disappointed on of all that I have ever watched after reading the books was the series of unfortunate events by Lemony Snicket. The books, there are 13 books to that series, and they are so interwoven and intertwined, and you get to the end and you still don't have any of the answers, and it's like, well, from the beginning of the book he was telling you that you're not going to like the ending. I mean, it's that kind of it's that kind of ironic, funny, like the way the author had it set up. He just told you from the get-go, hey, you're not going to like the ending, you're not going to like the ending, and then you get to the end, you're hoping for a happy ending, and it's like, well, that was a letdown. And it's like, oh, well, he told me that it wasn't going to be a good ending from the beginning. But that 13 book series was brought down to the series of unfortunate events movie with Jim Carrey. And
Hmm.
what they did was they took the first three books out of the 13 book series and put those on screen, and then had to create an ending that was an ending because movies don't not end. There has to be an ending. So if you watch the movie and you think that that's how it ends, it was so far from the truth of those books that it's not even honestly, I was very upset that the movie was even made because it just ruined the whole entire series. Lemony Snicket is an amazing author. I think he originally, like, finally came out and said who he was, but for the longest time he was incognito. Nobody knew who he was. He just wrote those books under that pseudonym and did an amazing job with it. But that movie was a sellout. It was horrible. Yeah, it's horrible.
That is one movie that I know that we have not watched. We did watch the Netflix series of the series of unfortunate events, and we really like our family like that. I think I don't think my daughter has read any of those yet, but I think she had wanted to at one point.
Hmm. Yeah, those ones, and I'll tell you, the audiobooks are the best way to go too if you just want to put them on at night because there's nothing in them that would scare anybody, to cause bad dreams or anything. I mean, it was just like the lives of these three kids, Baudelaire kids, and they the voice, the actor that they got for the voice recordings was um, oh goodness, Tim Curry.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh!
yeah, so he was the actor that voiced the audiobooks and just did a phenomenal job. We listen to those on long car rides whenever you need to get the kids in the back seat to calm down and go to sleep. You just pop those on. You can listen along and enjoy the the story, and the kids are snoring in the back seat, not fighting with each other because that's just the best way to do things.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Now, do you have any books that are coming out in this year, the year of 21? Are you looking forward to any books that you've been waiting on? You're like, I'm ready for this book.
Now that you mention it, I actually have been very, what is the word? Active on Instagram, and became part of a community called the writers community there. I'm not a writer, but all of the writers communities are independently published authors. There is a list a mile long of new books that are coming out this year that have been published independently by some of the authors that I follow, some of the authors that I've been allowed to read their books. And one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to is by Dan Kenner. It's called Transformed. It's the second to his first book was called Awakened, and it's the Light Bearers Chronicles. The second book is called Transformed, and I'm really looking forward to that one. That's an independently published author. He's from Utah. Him and his wife and his kids are homesteaders over there, and just a lot of fun to see them also active on Instagram. I mean, most of the stuff that I do is on Instagram or Twitch. And so it's fun to see their life, what they're doing there. But him as an author and as a writer, he has published those books independently. I am beta reading another one by Kobe Lejeune, and it's a whodunit thriller type book. It's got some triggers in it. There's some death that occurs that might be a little bit too close to home for some people. But as a beta reader, I have been looking forward to her finishing this one because she only gave me the first half of her book. And I'm like, when are you going to finish the second half? And when are you going to publish this thing? Because it's really exciting. And then just the group of people that's on the writers community in Instagram. If you look up hashtag writers community or writer community on Instagram, there's a ton of authors out there that are independently published that you never hear of because they don't hit the New York Times bestseller list, or they don't hit the Harvard book list or anything, because they're independently published, but their books are so engaging and involved. And Luke Courtney finished a new one that he's getting ready to publish in March. I've already, the biggest one, Brandon Sanderson, he just published his November 17th of last year. So that one I'm not looking forward to anymore. Like it's already, I got it.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of authors and just, I'm trying to even like pin down a couple of them that, yeah. One of my author friends that I became close friends with on Twitch, her name is Margie Vieira, and she is currently in the process of writing a book. So there's so many that I've become friends with through Twitch, through Instagram that have told me that they're writing or told me that they're publishing something. And so now I'm like, the list is too long. And if I forget somebody, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to anybody that listens later on. It wasn't that I wasn't thinking of you. It's just in the moment. There's so many. So yeah, there's a lot that's coming out this year that yeah, I can't even begin to start naming them. Like the two major ones that I'm thinking of are Dan Kenner's and Kobe Lejean's, because hers I'm like in the middle of beta reading.
Hmm.
There's another guy by the name of J. Richard Jacobs, who is a sci-fi writer, and he co-wrote a book with 9 other authors called Heaven Help Us, and it's a satirical fiction that he's allowed me to beta read that he gave me back in October. But because life is so crazy, I put it down and I need to finish beta reading that one. Jay, I'm sorry, I'm getting to it. But it's a hilarious book and just absolutely love it. And like if I had the time that I need to be able to sit down and quietly read that, I would definitely do it in a heartbeat and get it finished with. But it's, yeah, I really like just all kinds of authors and the gamut of books. Um, yeah, Dan Kenner's is a children's book. Kobe Lejean's is definitely an adult, uh, not paranormal, an adult thriller. J. Richard Jacobs is an adult. I don't even know how to say what his is. It's just all over the place with 9 different authors. You can just imagine, but they co-wrote it so wonderfully that just one author goes into the next one. So you don't really, it's seamless. They did a really good job of co-writing that book. And when it finally gets published, I will be probably one of the first ones to grab a hold of a copy. Yeah, there's a lot out there. I can't think of any others, but I will, and I'll probably just go, oh yeah, in the middle of talking. But yeah, that's my list.
All right. So I know that we've talked within the episode about Twitch briefly, but I'd like to know how did you first decide to even stream on Twitch?
Wow. So there's the question. I could probably, it goes back 20 years, okay? I was involved in an online MPRG, which is a MUD, where we were characters in a place called the Ark of the Covenant. And for years and years, I mean, I've kept in touch with quite a few of them. And 2 of the main characters that are married in real life, I met in person not this last October, but the October before. And he was talking about, and that was the first time I'd ever met them in person. I mean, it had been 19 years and I had never met them in person, but we'd been friends that long. And so when I met them, he was involved in Twitch Sings and had a huge following on Twitch Sings, which, rip now because it's gone.
Hmm.
He told me, "You like to sing?" Yes, I do in the shower. That's about it. And he said, "Well, let me tell you about Twitch." And so I watched him do the Twitch Sings for a while. And then he got into where he was playing Portal and then the Splatoon. So there was a few of them that I was watching him play, and then just kind of hung out on Twitch from there. So in October of 2019 was my first introduction into Twitch. And he raided another friend of mine who has went by the name of 7 Miles. And now he's changed his name to Alan Axiom. And he raided Hyrule Gaming Group, which the first time I ever had met Hyrule Gaming Group, the main person there was streaming without a camera. And the whole time I thought Twitch was only camera and microphone. Like you had to have those to be on Twitch. And then to listen to
Mhm.
his voice talking in on stream without having a camera, I was like, oh, it's just like a radio. You could just go from a radio. And so I got a hold of my friend that I was watching back in October and told him that I was going to try and do Twitch Sings. Well, I did that for probably 5 or 6 days and found out that I started, for years I'd had problems with singing, and you can hear it in my voice, it's really raspy. I have nodules on my vocal cords. Didn't know about that at the time until I started trying to sing for 5 days and was told, nope, it's probably not the best thing for you unless you want to lose your voice eventually completely. So then I was like, okay, no more Twitch Sings. And my internet was horrible. So try and find something that is very static. And that's, like I said, when I saw the Hyrule Gaming Group um, episode where there was no camera. So it was static and it was just a voice, and thought I could do that if it's just radio because I don't want people to see me anyway, especially since I'm trying to be as anonymous as possible in a government position. I can't sing. I'm trying to go static with the layouts because the internet's horrible, and I just needed a place to get away from life in general because of how crazy things had already started to become in February of 2020. So this was pre March 2020 when the whole rest of the world
Right.
got crazy. My world was getting crazy in February 2020, and I just think it was the universe or God's way or somebody, like out there's way of looking after me and saying, okay, your life's about to get even crazier. Let's just find you a place where you can go in and have an escape from general life, work, and just I started streaming late at night. It was about 9. I think I started from 9 to midnight on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Switch that up, of course, since then. Now I'm streaming at 8 o'clock on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, but most nights I'm there Monday through Friday just to get through a book. And I've gotten a bigger following. But yeah, just it started. You ask where I started Twitch 20 years ago. I started Twitch 20 years ago in spirit. So yeah, that's how I started on Twitch.
So you have, by the time this episode releases, you'll have been streaming just about a year or a little bit over a year.
Yes, 1 year, 1 month. So February 1st was my first live reading stream. Yes.
Now, and I know you mentioned Brandon Sanderson. What's the general, I guess, how do you go about getting a book to read? And I know you mentioned you reach out to the authors.
Mhm.
Um, are they generally receptive? Do you have to go through like their publisher or their agent? Like what is the way that the magic happens?
When I first started, I sent an email to Brandon Sanderson. I don't know, it was just on a contact me thing on his website. I don't know if it was him that contacted me or if it was one of his publishers or somebody. And they said, well, we are allowing people to read our book, the Brandon Sanderson book. We're allowing people to read the books as long as they're not receiving any money from it, and you are not just playing the audiobook on whatever, not a playback of the audiobook where you'd have to purchase it. So I said, no,
Right.
I'm actually going to be reading those myself. It'll be my voice and it'll be at will as time allows. I got the go ahead from Brandon Sanderson first. And of course, with those three books being over 5,000 pages altogether between the three of them, it took me from February to the beginning of July to read those books. And during my readings of those, the viewers that would come in, I would say, hey, if there's one that you're interested in me reading, let me know. Send me a message through Whisper or through Discord, and and I'll try and reach out. I'll see if the magic can happen, as you're saying, and find out if I'm allowed to read those. Quite a few of the authors that I contacted either did not respond or they said, contact my publisher. So
Hmm.
by that being the case, I decided to go. The next person that I contacted wasn't until the beginning of May. I just got so discouraged. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to read Brandon Sanderson's books and then I'm going to be done. I'm just, when that one's finished, I'm over. Um, the next author that I contacted from a viewer question was Alexander Gordon Smith, the one that wrote the Escape from Furnace. And he said, oh, well, being as this is a time of COVID and everybody is working from home, the Macmillan Publishing that has done my audiobooks has released all of the audiobooks rights back to the authors. So I will give you those rights to read my books as long as you're not receiving monetary gain from it. So that author contacted me personally back in an email and said, sure, read my books. I know for sure that it was him. And so I've got that, all these emails I'm keeping for future reference.
Hmm.
So I read his books and got through all of those ones. The next one that I contacted was actually a Twitch streamer. He was a publisher of a book. So it just depends upon the situation. I either contact the authors themselves through a contact me on their page, or they tell me to get a hold of their publishers, or a friend of a friend knows that friend and that friend says, sure, that friend will read. My friend's getting ready to read. J. Richard Jacobs was like that. His daughter contacted me. She's one of the Twitch streamers, and said, hey, can you read one of my dad's books? And from there, Jay was on the first stream where I was reading his stuff. And I kid you not, I don't know about the language on these things, but he said, who the hell's reading my book? That was his intro sentence into my stream. I was like, hi, your daughter gave me permission. And then from there, he's gifted me a whole bunch of his other books saying, here, read this one, read this one. Here's some short stories that I've written, read these. So it just happens different ways. Some of the authors I contact through Instagram, some of the, and most of the independently published ones give me permission because they want their books to be out there in the public and they want to get some more involvement. Some of them who go through publishers, they have to have the publisher's permission. So one I read, she was like, well, contact my publisher. My publisher will let you know how much of it you can read. And the publisher only let me read the first 2 chapters of the book. So I couldn't read the rest of the book. I kept to their word and what they had sent in the newsletter. And when that ended, I was done with that book. Of course, I promoted it. I make sure people know how to get a hold of the authors from what they give me. Most of them are through Instagram. Some of them have websites, but most of the independently published ones either use Instagram or Facebook or trying to think of the other major one. It's mostly Instagram and Facebook. And and so, I mean, it just depends upon the author. Most of them, if they're self-published, they give me permission or they say, no, not right now. The rest of the books, I have to either obey the copyright laws, which most classics are beyond copyrights now, or basically wait until the author has passed away and has been gone for, American copyright laws have just recently changed where the author has to have been dead for more than 95 years. It used to be 70
Hmm.
years, and then Disney decided to put their fingers in that one and say, no, we want to keep a hold of Steamboat Willie. And so they changed the copyright laws to more than 95 years. But I've honestly thought about moving to Canada because Canada's copyright laws are only 40 years. So in 2 years, I could read the Chronicles of Narnia if I was living in Canada.
Oh my goodness. I noticed that when I'd uh, come onto your Twitch channel occasionally, um, that there was no subscribe button. And I was like, well, that's strange because I know you're getting the amount of viewers that you need, and you stream enough, and you have the constant numbers of people watching you, and like you've hit all those like the affiliate goals, right? I'm
Yes.
like, I wonder, and I thought to myself, so I was like, I bet that there's something where she can't make money because she is reading the books.
hmm Yes. And I am to the end of my list of books that I asked permission of the authors. And I'm switching. I'm actually getting ready to go affiliate on February 1st. Part of me was of the mindset that this was just an aside. This was a way of escaping, my normal everyday life. And then, of course, asking the author's permission. Most of them are like, no, you can't have any monetary gain at all. So the way that I am, and I told you early on that I get bored with stuff really easily, especially
Mhm.
episodic stuff. And mentally, I was thinking, okay, if I go affiliate and just read classic books, I will peter out really fast. I don't want to do that. And I want to see how well I do. And I'll give this a year. So at the beginning of this month, when I started contacting some of the authors about whether or not they were okay with me reading their books if I was affiliate, most of them are like, we'll have to write up a contract. Let's try and get something going. And so that put me at a halt. I didn't want to do that because I was afraid that with contracts you're then bound, and
Right.
I didn't want to start doing that. So I was like, no, I'm just going to hold off. Well, about mid January, um, I got an idea from a really close friend of mine. Well, you can still be reading, and you can do games that are based on reading. So I got a choose your own adventure game that I'm going to be doing next month. I've got like Mad Libs that we're going to be doing. A lot of classics for the month of February because I figured this first month I wanted to just see how it goes as affiliate, and then start reaching out to some of those authors again and say, hey, I'm affiliate now. I'm starting to receive monetary gain. What would you like to work out with me? Can we do a gentleman's contract? Are you cool with me receiving a small monetary gain? Would you like to receive something from the views? One of the authors has been very receptive. She was like, I will pay you to play to read my stuff on stream. She's a really sweet lady. And just, I mean, a lot of authors are just like, yeah, get our stuff out there. So she's wanting me to read her third book in March. And I've already promised that I'm going to start reading that. So I, I know we're in the first part of March now. So Margie, I'll be reading your book this month. But yeah, February 1st is affiliate day. Well, I probably said all of that a little preemptively because everything's going to be on March the 1st.
Ah, that's okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, I should be affiliate by the time you hear this. Woohoo!
Nice. I'm excited for you for that because I know that like you're putting in the work, and then it's like okay, you got what you're doing, but then at the same time it's like, man, it'd be nice, right? Like it'd be nice to just to see where things lay with the people coming to your stream, or what they would like to see or do for your time that you're putting in there.
Yeah, and I figured if I can just get enough back to cover the cost of the books, like if I'm purchasing a book to read on that stream, then all I would need it would be the cost of, the covering of the cost of the book. I'm not going to be doing this as a full-time position of any kind. I've got a full-time job.
Right.
It's over full-time, and by the time I get home, I just wanna sit down and read and just enjoy my time with my now close family that I've developed over Twitch. So, yeah, it's been really fun learning this whole side of things, and I've been telling my real life family, my real life friends about it. They're starting to get involved. My little brother has actually come on to one of my streams with me, and everybody was loving his voice. I'm like, great competition. So we'll see. But yeah.
And before we wrap up, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, or at least brought up, that you mentioned first, like, kind of rolling into things because of Josh on Hyrule Gaming Group,
Mhm.
just him not streaming with camera, and he's been on the podcast twice for me so far. Uh, and one of the things that you had just announced, I think like a week or two ago, is that you joined the Hyrule Gaming Group affiliate team.
Yes, I did. I was super surprised to see that email come in from him. And I had been thinking about sending an application in, but then, of course, part of me was like, well, I'm not affiliate on Twitch. So if I become affiliate with Hyrule Gaming Group, do I have to have the affiliate behind my name on Twitch? And then he sent me the application or the invitation, and he was like, "No, you don't have to be affiliate. You don't have to receive any money. We're just wanting to get
Right.
your name out there and get you on that list of people that's streaming." So, yeah, it's been exciting because I've been part of that community now for well over a year. I agree with everything that Josh and with that family believes in, just having chill vibes and uplifting people as they come into stream and try to keep things as in a world that we're living in where every time you turn on the news it's always negative, finding some positive energy that people can come in and just relax and let go of the cares of the world is kind of where we're trying to keep our streams. And yeah, real life happens and we talk about it during stream, but it doesn't have to bring you down and it doesn't have to make you not want to come into the stream and talk with us. But yeah, when Josh sent me that invitation, I was beyond thrilled and hit the accept button faster. I, I don't even think that I let the ink cool on my email before I hit that accept button. So, as the old fogies say, as the old fogies,
That's right. Us old fogies.
old fogies, yeah.
Awesome. Well, for the people that have listened to this podcast episode and they would like to find you out there on the great wide world of the internet, what are the best places to do so?
I am available on Instagram mostly. So my Instagram is JubileeOBI streams and Twitch, JubileeOBI. And then I have my link tree accessible on my Instagram page. I've got everything there. I have not gotten into Facebook. It's just scary, I think, but mainly through Instagram, through Twitch, Discord. I've got my Discord linked up in there. And I am also starting to branch out into YouTube, and I don't have enough people to be able to have a name associated with it. So it's a bunch of letters and numbers. So I'm not going to tell you what that is, but it's all on my link tree. So yeah, that's mainly. And then of course I've also got my email, which is JubileeOBI streams at gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure to have all the links in the show notes and the website and Facebook page. So that way, if people that are listening want to come check out your stream or check out your Instagram or hit the link tree up for your YouTube, they can do so. And that way they can give you a follow or a like or whatever they need to do to check out what you do every week on your Twitch channel. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your evening to record with me tonight.
Well, thank you, Tails. This has been a lot more fun than I imagined. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So coming up to it, I was so nervous, but you've made it a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.